Hello, this is Old Electronics Fan, and this is a Victor. I think it's an R-32. I may have to double check that, but nearly as I can tell, that's what it is. The what you see sitting on top is the amplifier, which actually goes in the back. This is a rather unique little radio. This is a 1930s vintage TRF model. Tuned radio frequency is what I believe that means. But what that means is that these radios don't have IF circuits in them. These are very early. Now, what's interesting about this one is you'll see that well, maybe you can see. This has a slide lever. Whoops, a slide lever that tunes the multiple tuners that are in this. So some of the the very early TRF radios had two or three tuning knobs, and you have to tune them individually to get the station to come in. They finally got smart and came up with the idea of linking them all together so that you could move one knob, like the Atwater Kent I have, or a lever in this case. This is a fascinating design. I've seen it on other YouTube channels and at least on another YouTube channel. It's very unique. This case seems to be in pretty good shape. The top of it is, a little worn and weary, but not bad. This case is actually in better shape than my whoops, I don't have a lot of room in here. Ow. Than my Atwater Kent. This one hasn't been abused as much as that was. Get over here on this side, and it's in pretty good shape. I mean, the finish needs to be redone, but it hasn't been badly abused. This radio, as you can see, is two parts. The top part is the radio, the tuning part, and the bottom part, which that goes down there. This is the amplifier and the power supply. Oh, there it is, RS-36. I missed that. I don't know if I can get that. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. RS-36. Now this, this radio reminded me of yet another reason why you don't want to plug these in without examining them first. Unfortunately, the owner of this radio did plug it in. They didn't know what they were doing. The typical person doesn't know anything about this stuff. It says it doesn't work. Well, this is the rectifier tube, which is at 80. These two are the output tubes, the 45s. And even though the tube number is printed in front of each tube, so I'm going to put the 80 and put it here, and the 45 and put it here. Whoops. So they swapped this tube and this tube. The 80 has a 5-volt filament. The 45 has a 2.5 filament. So when the tube got put in here and the person turned it on, the filament went bye-bye instantly. Gone. So I had to get another tube for that, another 45. I did check all the other tubes in here since I was going to be looking for a tube, and they seem to be okay. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this part out. Actually, no, I'm going to take the amplifier and let me put my camera down, and then I will show you why I'm going to tackle that first. And let me tell you, this thing weighs a ton. And let me see here, I want to go to, so, I guess I aimed it all right. Let's see. Let's do this. Oops. Now, the reason I want to touch the catch. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. Can't talk. Wow. You can see already what has happened to this poor thing. The speaker cone has been aligned. What happened, actually, let me grab that and I'll show you. This is the speaker grill. It was the speaker grill. So when the speaker grill came apart, it fell into the speaker and did damage to it. So, and it's not all that heavy, but I wonder if somebody pushed against it or something and shoved it into the speaker. In any event, the speaker is damaged. So, what I want to do is gently, if I can get some of that dust and dirt out of there. I want to do this without breaking anything. Now, I don't really know how well this speaker is going to work after being abused like this. But yeah, I think I can save it. Again, I don't know, because it's all around the edges up here. You see that it's kind of buckled, and that's not a good sign. And I really don't want to push on it until I get it glued back together. So, I'm going to gently push that back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to glue this back together little by little, and see if I can save it. But this is why I want to tackle this first, because while this is hopefully while the glue is curing, then maybe, just maybe, oh, I gotta have brushes. I should have planned ahead. I was doing something else prior to this and ran into an issue. And I'm waiting for something to cure on that. So that's why I wound up going to work on this instead. I was kind of wondering what I wanted to do next. Oh, all right, let's do. All right. My goal is to try to get the tears aligned the best way I can, the way they were. Because as you might well imagine, when something pushes through, sometimes pieces of paper get pushed one in front of the other, and you don't want to glue it back together that way. So down here, this section was stuffed behind this one, so I just gently persuaded this section here back into place. And let's see. So I'm going to start working some glue into that crack. Come on. Apparently I haven't used my glue in a while because it doesn't really want to come. Oh, no, the cover doesn't want to come off. Alright. Are you going to be difficult? Probably. Alright, so what I want to do is put some glue. Let's see. Do I want to use my brush for that, or do I want to use this? Well, let's try this. Up. There. Well, I guess I gotta fix my cap. But I got some glue. Alright, so. And that wasn't quite what I intended to do, but I guess I'll make do with that. So what I'm trying to do is work the glue so that it goes behind the torn paper as much as possible, because the tear is torn on an angle, so that this piece actually is sliding behind that piece actually has an angle tear. So if I can get the glue where I want it to be, then it will make a pretty sturdy repair. So that's my hope. And so if I do this, alright, I need a paper towel or something. There we are. And I'm just going to clean up my mess here. So, my plan is to put a little bit of pressure, not a lot. Just want to keep enough pressure on there so that that joint will glue together where it belongs. If you push too hard on it, you can wind up distorting the cone more than it already is. One of the things I noticed when I was playing with this a little bit, trying to get an idea of how it was looking, how likely it was going to be that I was going to be able to get this back where it belonged, was that gentle pressure seemed to give me what I wanted. And now, I believe, if I remember right, this white glue, Elmer's glue, has about a 5-minute setup time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bail out for a few minutes while this is curing, and until I can feel that it's safe to let go of it, and then come back. Alright, so I've let this glue settle a little bit. Then I had to take my finger and shove this part back over the edge of the paper here, because it was shoved behind. So it's going to be interesting. I may have to do that in, yes, I probably have to do that behind. That's okay. By shoving this, because I tried to look at how this was originally, because you can kind of tell, because the paper of course is white, and then apparently they sprayed a dark coating on it to make it look black. The paper itself doesn't appear to be colored, so you can kind of tell how this paper was arranged before the tear, which edges were ahead of other edges or behind other edges. And so this one, by pushing this back where it belonged, it pretty much lined it up where I wanted it to be on this part. Alright, so what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of glue on here, if I can do it without making a mess. That looks good. And we're going to slowly work it in that crack in behind. Keep working my way around. And And in this case, I'm going to go from the front and the back, if I can. Yes, you can see the glue coming through here. This is good. That's what I wanted to see. So now, let's see if I can. Am I where I want to be there? I think I am. I didn't want to go that way, did I? Alright. So what I'm trying to do, and it's going to be interesting, is I'm trying to make this, I want this to stay against that, I want that to stay against that, and I don't want to push it too far, I don't want to distort it. Alright, so I'm going to let that sit for a minute as well. Now, I did bring some tissue paper with me, intending to use that to strengthen the cone. I don't know if I'm going to do that or not, because I've actually seen where, on other repairs I've done on radio speakers, where when they've torn in such a way that they overlap, like this is doing, or like this is, once you get the glue, those edges glued back together, it's pretty strong. The glue is actually stronger than the paper, and at that joint where that glue soaks into the paper and ties those edges together, I don't see any problem leaving it as is. If there's a piece that's completely loose and it's desperately in need of support to get it back where it belongs, then yeah, I will support it somehow. I did that with the Kent, Atwater Kent. That one was in much worse shape than this, and it had been monkeyed with by someone else prior to me, which made me less than happy, but I was able to save that. That one still works fine. But that one was in really bad shape. This one, for whatever reason, looks like it's going to be pretty easy to put it back together and actually have it be as strong as it was before. At least in the area where the tear was. I don't think it's going to fall apart there because the glue will hold it quite nicely. So, I think that's looking good. So my hope is, a little bit of a hole there, my hope is to just glue it back together the way I'm doing and have it as much as possible not be warped. One of the things I worry about, there we go, English is my second language, I think, I swear, not really, but it sometimes seems like it. One of the things I am really concerned about is that the white glue has a fair amount of water in it, and if you get too carried away with this glue, then you wind up wrinkling the paper. And so you've got to be very careful with how much you put on there. And I'm trying to be rather judicious in that. And I'm watching it like a hawk to see how it's drying. So I'm going to allow this to dry a bit longer because I don't want to mess with that. Because now I've got this piece and this piece are all glued together. But I don't want to, because now I'm going to get up into this part and that part, and I really don't want to dislodge this piece. which I think has gone back into its proper spot quite nicely. So I'm going to let this dry up a bit, and then I'm going to, when I'm happy with what I see, I'm going to come back and I'm going to take care of this. Now this piece looks like it's setting in there quite nicely. Whoops. Well, and actually it looks like it's all going to come back together. So yeah, I'm going to little by little piece this back together, and then I'm really hoping that this cone is still centered, because it's a real risk, obviously, with all the warping you see around the outside of this. This is leather, by the way. Pretty sure it is. And it seems pretty stiff, actually. Oh yeah. I'm not thrilled with that, although I'm just gently moving it, and it does move. So we'll see. I don't know, if this really is leather, I may have to put something on there to soften it up. I'm thinking that that's quite likely what they use. They do that a lot. Oh, transformers, leaking stuff out the bottom. Looks like tar. That could mean that this transformer is running hot. Although this could be, actually I have to look on, I'm pretty sure I had printed out, I don't know where I put it, the schematic for this. Or did I just look at it on my computer? Don't remember. Because some of these are, I believe, are transformers, and some of these are capacitors, multi-section capacitors. And I really need to find out what's what. But when I look at this over here, there's some black, greasy, oily stuff coming out from underneath this. Yeah, somebody spray painted this at some point. I don't know if this is originally what it was. I have a feeling it wasn't. But the whatever's coming out of that transformer has loosened up the paint, and as I clean it, it's coming off. Great. No, not really. So, but the fact that that's leaking out of there definitely leads me to believe that all is not well in there. So that's something I'm going to be checking out before I do anything with it, more with this. 10 to 1, there's electrolytic capacitors in there. I'm not betting. I'm not a betting man, so do not place any bets, please. But I think there's probably electrolytics in there, because they did that. They would put capacitors in there, and then they would pack the case full of tar or something like that. And that's kind of what it looks like is coming out of there, some tar. So, yeah. Well, while we're waiting for that, I think I can safely tip this on its back now. I just want to take a look underneath. I think I peeked under there once before, but I don't remember what I saw. I really don't, actually. That's kind of scary, because it hasn't been that long. Alright, let's take a peek. Oh, yeah. Whoops. Look at that. Well, that's interesting. There's not much here. Nice little wrap wire loom there. We got some resistors, not many. Very basic, very simple. It'd be interesting. I'm definitely anxious to see what the underside of the tuner section looks like. But if you look right If you look right here, yeah, I think we have a problem. Let me zoom in a little bit here. Let's see. Yeah. There appear to be bubbles here. And this one doesn't look all that happy either. So it almost looks like somebody replaced this one at some point based on what the solder looks like. Interesting. Neither one of these look all that happy, and this one also looks like it got overheated. So I'm betting that there are capacitors in there and they are not healthy. So definitely interesting. This resistor down here, yeah, I guess you can sort of see. That one looks okay. That one doesn't look too bad. See, are there any more hiding over in this area? No. So, oh, okay. So these are tube sockets. That's a pair of tube sockets. There's a wire wound resistor here. There's one here, actually. Let's get back out there a little bit. So we got tube sockets, wire wound resistor. We've got, let's see, where's my power cord come in? Where does it come in? That's the speaker. So that's the tubes that outputs. Let's see, where? Okay, it goes in there. Alright, let's see. Alright, so this is my power cord. No, I'm always dropping that thing. Here. Okay. There's my power cord. It goes into here. Interesting, because I think, oh yeah, I think this is a rectifier tube. As I showed, these are the output tubes, I believe. This is the rectifier tube. I think that's the only tube here, so what is this? A little box on the other side of this sitting on the top of the chassis. Schematics can tell me a lot, which I know I have, but maybe I didn't print it. I thought I did. Alright, okay, so that's a ground. This is antenna connection, looks like. And over here, oh okay, so we've got this box here. This is the point at which all the connections from here go up to the tuner. So all of these connections here are connecting this amplifier to the other half of the radio. So that definitely has me concerned. Somebody was playing this a fair amount apparently while it was unhappy. Yes. Well, I think if this is electrolytics in here, that given my desire to make things look as original as I can, I'm probably going to pull this out of here and replace the failed electrolytics, because it sure looks like that's shorted, which means I'm not turning this on until I know what's going on. Let's see. I don't know what's up in here. Find out shortly. Probably one of these two, well, there's two sections here, so this might be a transformer here, because my power is coming in here, it's going through that, and there it goes to this loom, and then it goes Oh, what is that? Ah, on-off switch. Okay. So this is the on-off. Oh, you can't see because, well, I got to be careful about that button. The power button is right near the telephoto lens button. Alright, so, as I was saying, this is the on-off switch. So, that goes there and that goes there. But where does that go? Goes into this, maybe? No. I am not sure, but it looks like one of the AC wires goes to this, which I don't know what that is. This, oh yeah, this power cord goes into there, goes there, and then comes back out somewhere. Oh, anyway, I really should have printed that circuit diagram, and I apparently forgot I didn't do that. I will shortly. Alright. So, it looks like nobody's touched this thing. And I guess that's a good thing in some ways. How do I want to put this? My preference is that when I get something that hasn't been touched by somebody else, I tend to be fussy about how I do things. I try to make sure things are done right. Sometimes I don't have all the knowledge I would like to have, so then I sometimes wind up having to do a search to find out more about how things are supposed to be done, or how things are supposed to be wired or whatever. But to the best of my ability and my knowledge, I try to make sure that when I'm all done, that the radio is healthy and good to go for a long time. Because I don't really want to do a halfway repair. I just want to make it right. And I've seen some not so great repairs in my time. So when you do that, well, here's my concern. You discover something has been monkeyed with. You go to the circuit diagram and you hope the circuit diagram really and truly does match what you're working on. It's far too often the case that it doesn't exactly match. So then you have to start digging into other resources to try to figure out how things should be. And I've used two manuals to give me an idea of what the voltages should be in the cases where there weren't voltages to help me out. I've tried to look at the circuit to see if what was in there made sense. And you know, it's a challenge sometimes because you really don't always know how the manufacturer intended something to be set up, and it's hard sometimes to find that information. You know, for something at this age, chances are I'm going to find one schematic for this, and only one. I mean, I've got Beitmans and I've got Riders available to me. But far too often, they're the same revision, the same version. So I don't know. I mean, if I run into a problem with something like this, or with something that's been worked on, I will go looking for other versions. And actually, with the Atwater Kent, I did find two versions of the schematic, and they were two different revisions. And that was interesting because the older version had a revision that didn't show up in that particular schematic. It showed up in the newer schematic, the newer version schematic. So the older radio had a change that didn't show up until later. So I'm guessing that that radio was being built just as they were making changes to the way they were designing the circuitry in that radio. So it was a mix of two versions, and so I wound up using both of those to help me sort out that radio. Now, and I also ran into my Butterfly? I think it was. The Butterfly also had some, multiple versions. It had a console version, and it had the radio version. And the console had an iTube in it, and the radio did. The desktop radio did not. And in the circuit that involved the iTube, there was a 32k ohm resistor that was used, according to the schematic, only with the radio that had the iTube. But my desktop radio had that resistor in it. It didn't have anything else relating to the iTube, but it did have that resistor. So I opted to ignore the schematic and just leave the radio as it was, and that was the right thing to do, I think, was because the radio works fine. If I had decided to go modifying that, there was a real chance that things would not have worked as well as they were supposed to. So, with all my yammering, has this done what I wanted it to? Let's find out. Okay, what do we got here? Let's see. Gentle is the word here. Oh, I think we're all right. Yes. It's a little bit damp there, but I think we can proceed. So we got that, and we got that. So, yes, all right. So, let's try this some more. Try to do this without dumping it all over my desktop. Here. I'm pretty sure this is what I want to do. That doesn't look promising. Let's try it with the brush. Where are you? Sorry, I had it soaking so it wouldn't harden up on me. I'm using the brush for this because I want to push in on this. Although that's not going to get me what I want either, is it? Oh, because this has been pushed in front of that. Oh. Can we get you to come out? Yes. I think I did it. All right. So. I can't. All right. We're going to try this way. In fact, maybe I'll try it from behind. That's what worked last time. All right, let's try that. All right. I'm hoping that that's shoving it through. I don't know. I'm probably standing in your way, so you can't see. You can't see what I'm doing anyway, because I'm doing it from behind. All right. Yes, that is doing exactly what I wanted it to do. You can see the glue peeking through there, and that's what I wanted. Yes. All right. So. Now you can see why I like using a brush sometimes. And now, this is not coming around where I want it to. What's this here? Which way are you supposed to be? Right there. Okay. Good. All right. So, yes, that looks good. All right. Keep going. And, oh, yeah, that's a tear right there. It's got to be fixed. I'm going to do that one from the front. Yeah, I don't want to do that. I think that's probably the way it's supposed to be, too. So what I'm doing is I'm coming from the back and I'm scraping off the glue, try to get it into the break between, or break along that line of the tear, and okay. Yeah, I think. Now, so what I want to do is this. So I'm going to try to use my brush to help feed that glue where I want it. And I think that one spot right there wants to keep pulling away. So I'll just keep my finger there for now. Now, there are those who have asked me in the past why I don't use contact cement. Well, the fact is I sometimes do. And this might have been, that might have been a good choice for this. The only thing I don't like about contact glue is you have to be sure that, well, let me back up. How you're supposed to use contact cement is you coat either one surface, or if you really want it to be a solid bond, you coat both surfaces. You allow the surfaces to become tacky, and then you push the two surfaces together. There is no leeway. Once those two surfaces contact, you cannot reposition them. You cannot adjust them. Not easily. And when you're dealing with something fragile like this paper, forget it. It's going to be what it's going to be. And so by using white glue, yes, it takes, well, for instance, I'm having to hold this while it cures. So for this part of the repair, I probably should have used rubber cement, because then I could let that dry and then put it together, and it was stuck, and that would have been it. If, however, it didn't look like it was going to go together right, then once the two came together, that was it. So I tend to not use it as a general rule when I'm doing something like this, especially if there's any chance that I might want to reposition something and try again, because you don't have that luxury with rubber cement. I do use it, and if I've got something where, well, for instance, the surround, not this is leather, but if the surround, paper surround, has cracked, then I will coat but it's still together, I will coat the surround with rubber cement. And that's a good use of rubber cement because it is flexible and it adds stiffness. White glue adds stiffness, but at the expense of flexibility. And now white glue isn't hard like an epoxy, but it's not as flexible as contact cement is. So it's a great application for a surround that's cracked and damaged, and I've used it more than once for that. So I use both, but I try to be very careful about what I use where, and I try to think about what I'm trying to accomplish and what the need is for that particular repair and how flexible I need to be in making that repair work. You can see down below where the glue has already hardened. It's hard to tell that I've repaired that. And that's the other thing I kind of like. If I can get this repaired and looking good again and working properly and have it be as strong, but also have it look good when I'm done, that's a win-win for me. So, and it looks like, I'm just going to keep my fingers there for a few more minutes, but it looks like this is just about done. So, you've, in this instance, you also saw how I use my brush to try to feed the glue into the joint, and I found that extremely useful. The other thing that I do with the white glue, because remember I mentioned that white glue has a lot of water in it, and there's a real chance that if you get a little bit crazy with the white glue, you are going to wrinkle the paper because it will get soggy, it will get soaked, it'll actually get soft if you get go too nuts, and then the cone will actually be distorted. So what I tend to do, what I try to do, is number one, use as little of the white glue as I can, just the minimum needed to actually accomplish the job. I don't always succeed 100%, but the other thing is I use the brush to spread it out. And in the case where I'm using a piece of paper or tissue paper or something like that, I spread the glue out and then stick the paper on there. And the reason for that is twofold. Number one, if you don't have a thick layer of glue on there, it's less likely to get the paper soaked. Second of all, it glues fairly quickly. It's almost as quick as contact cement, but it's not as quick. You make a mistake with white glue, if you spot it right away, you can usually take it apart and fix it. But it doesn't take too long. Once you're sure everything's good and you've pressed everything together, usually it stays together very quickly. So I like that part too. And I've had pretty good success doing that way. On my Atwater Kent, some knucklehead had used black packing tape to repair the speaker. Well, by the time I got the radio, the packing tape had started to, the adhesive on the packing tape had started to go. And it was not a pretty sight. Definitely not the right idea, not the right product for repairing the speaker. So I peeled all the old tape off, and I wound up using, actually it was a thicker material. It was a thicker brown paper material that because the cone was so thick, just using regular printer paper wasn't going to cut it. So, and I did try that first, and I didn't like how it turned out. So, using the other paper made it stiffer, made it come out a lot better, and the speaker works fine now, thankfully. if you look on the back of that poor speaker, it looked like it had bird feathers coming off from it. It was really, really badly damaged. So I think, as I'm touching this, I think that's going to stay put. Yeah. I am looking at how that repair has settled in, and I think I'm pretty safe. Now there's a tear that goes that way, and actually I wanted to hit that and I forgot. So this is just my goal here is to just stiffen it up a little bit. Yeah. There's just one spot here that I'm not sure about, so I think I'm just going to touch it up a little bit. This is where the wires connect for the speaker, and I just want to make sure that's strong enough. So all I'm just doing is painting a little bit of glue on there. Yeah. This would also have been a good choice. This spot would also have been a good choice for contact cement because it's already together. But I don't think it really matters. I think by painting that on like I did, if there is a little bit of a gap there, the brush seems to help push the glue through the gap, through the tear. And I think it will be pretty sturdy. And I think I'm trying to be as careful as I can to not push on it too hard, but at the same time I just want to gently put pressure on it and then look to see if I see glue squeezing out. If I do, then I know that the paper has separated more than I want it to. So just a little gentle pressure just to urge it back where it belongs. And that looks pretty promising. So I'm pretty happy. This looks like it's coming back together the best I could hope for. And it's going to look pretty good when it's done. I mean, you're not going to see this really. It's going to be hiding behind the grill cloth, which sadly will need replacing along with the frame that supported it. But there will be grill cloth and it will hide this speaker. But whether you're looking at it from the front or the rear, you're not going to know. When you look at it closely, you'll see that it's been repaired, but it won't be real obvious. That's my thought. So I see down here, you can see kind of, but it doesn't look bad, so I'm happy with that. Alright, so we still have a little bit. I can see the glue bubbling out when I touch it there, so we'll wait a little bit longer. So I'm going to get back to you in a minute. So what's going to happen now is I'm going to take this and put it somewhere else, and then I'm going to bring the tuner section over here, and we'll take a look at that. And one of the things I am going to do is take the tuning mechanism. At the very least, I'm going to take the covers off the tuners. I'm going to show you how they look, but I'm also want to see what kind of shape it's in. That's a very mechanical system that, if the radio's been used a lot, the pivots, the pivot points in that tuner can become loose, can become worn, and that's something I want to take care of now, rather than later when I want to use it or someone else has it and they come back to me and say, hey, this is not working right. Now, one thing I don't like that I see here is that the leather is actually cracking up here. And there's no there's paper behind that, which is interesting. Huh. Let me just see. Very interesting. That's interesting. I kind of thought that this leather surround was a single layer of leather, but it turns out that well, that's interesting. Huh. Alright, well, here's what they've done. Very interesting. On the back side of this leather, they have some kind of a fabric that's bonded to this somehow. And yeah, so you've got this is the edge of the paper cone right here, this line. And so what they've done is, like I said, they've got this leather material, but it's also got a fabric backing behind it. And they've glued these strips one by one onto the face of this cone. And I guess that's to strengthen the leather? I don't know. But let's see, I think this is looking pretty good. Well, still a little bit touchy. When I touched that, I saw the glue kind of press out of the joint, which I don't like. So I really want the paper to be touching as much as possible. It'll give it the strongest possible bond, repair, whatever. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is, like I said, I'm going to bail out. I think you've pretty much seen how this is going to look, and the only thing that you are still seeing is that this glue is still a little bit wet, but you can see when it's dry, it pretty much hides itself, so that makes me happy. So I'm going to stop the video for a moment, and then I'm going to come back with the tuner part of this, and I'll go over that. And then we'll take a look, and we'll be taking things apart on that, because I definitely want to look at the tuner. And you get your first look at this rather unique TRF radio. It's like I said, I think I did see somebody else with one of these, and they did have to repair some of the parts in the tuning mechanism because they had worn out. So I know that can happen, which is why I'm going to check it out.